Good evening. Good evening to all the participants and members of HEMS Academy. Uh, we had a very, very wonderful, pure, and spiritual beginning with a wonderful, perfect rendition of a Borgit by Master Krishnendu Datta. And it was so wonderful. And it has set the tone for this particular session, which is going to follow from HEMS. And I'd like to thank Hemchandra Datta, Mr. Hemchandra Datta, who we fondly refer to as only Datta, for inviting me to this particular session. Well, see, I teach English literature in the Department of English, Dibrugarh University, and I am not an expert in this particular session that we are going to be part of, and I hope to learn uh, much about meditation and other kinds of techniques that doctor offers in this particular course which he conducts for all of you. But I think the notion of being positive, and as we are following the positivity week throughout this particular, let's say, one whole week, and this is the third day. So I think even if I'm a layman, I can share certain things about notions of positivity and why it is important to stay positive and optimistic and hopeful, so that we can have a great future ahead, and we can sort of live in happiness, joy, prosperity, and live an active life. So yeah, so it's truly an honor as well as a privilege for me to be part of today's session with all of you and sharing thoughts on something that concerns deeply all of us. The notion of mental health, wellness, or well-being, that all of us at some point or the time we experience or we suffer from. Nobody can say that they're perfectly fine physically as well as mentally at all times, because there are moments of depression, there are moments of joy, and there are moments of anxiety and stress that we all experience in our day-to-day interactions as well as in our everyday lives. So I think it is a very, very important, it's a very, very important subject that we all needs to be concerned about. So we are also living in a consumerist society, where you know we are all the time hankering after materiality, and different kinds of, let's say, desires, okay, and things, material things. And most often what happens is that we are not in a position to purchase those items because they might be very, very expensive and out of our range, of, like you can say, purchasing capacity. So even over there are times when we feel a little bit depressed and we feel little bit dejected. We are living in an age of social media where we are bombarded with different kinds of images, okay, that we come across. And even over there's that great sense of desire, or interest to get hold of things that we do not get. So what happens is that we suffer from, low self-esteem. hmm, we suffer from the feeling of lack, the fact that others possess things which we perhaps cannot even hope or dream of. And then what happens is that we suffer from mental health issues. It has become very, very normal, and it has almost become a new normal, to experience these kinds of issues. So I think it is very, very important that we have experts like Dr. Who can sort of, make you recover, who can sort of, make you experience certain things that I, perhaps as a layman, will not be able to uh, achieve or counsel. Counseling becomes very, very necessary, and counseling becomes absolutely essential. And I think, institutes like HEMS Academy can serve that purpose, and it can address certain things that normal, ordinary human beings, that the rest of us, we cannot. Because we have to admit, okay, we will not like to admit, but all of us, we need to admit that, okay, we suffer from mental health issues. And how can we overcome it? How can we sort of, transcend our limits and capabilities to such an extent that, like, we begin to think of everything in a positive light and positive tendency, and then we recuperate, we cure ourselves from the malady of depression or mental illness. So I think on a week which we are celebrating as Positivity Week, it is very, very essential for all of us to address the issues that plague our mental well-being rather than our physical makeup. So physically, we might be quite well, and even on the front or on the outside, we might not show what we are experiencing from within. Okay, but who knows? Inside, we must be suffering. We must be suffering from different kinds of demons. Okay, from different kinds of monsters, and melancholia. So it is very, very necessary that we try to find ways to cope with these problems and we try to cope with these issues. And I think it's over here that people like Doctor, who are acquainted with new techniques and new methods of overcoming anxieties and feelings of phobias, and the different kinds of symptoms related to uh, illness or mental wellness or mental health. So I think they are in a position to find out what ails specific or individual beings, and they also have methods to redress those particular issues. Like when I asked Doctor what this entire Positivity Week will focus on, he said that it will focus on certain strategies and techniques that he deploys, okay, in his classes. So, like he talked about the Hawaiian technique of Ho'oponopono. Hmm. I think I hope I have spelled it or I have pronounced it correctly. Is it Ho'oponopono?
Ho oponopono.
Ho'oponopono.
Oponopono.
Yes.
Ho
It's very,
oponopono.
very interesting Hawaiian technique, which I think you as participants, because you have been part of this particular course for some time, you must be much more aware or acquainted than I am. But I was absolutely, surprised by the thought process that an indigenous community belonging to a place that sometimes people consider it to be outside, people consider to be outside the pale of civilization, that is Hawaii. Hmm. That how it can sort of influence people and effect, okay, some kind of positivity into their lives, because this particular technique is about the spirit of accommodation, the spirit of reconciliation, and the spirit of forgiveness. Okay, and I think these values are very, very ethical, and these values are, I think, very, very important in the present society in which we live in. I think it is very, very relevant to inculcate values where you propagate notions of forgiveness, propagate notions of sort of turning the other cheek. Okay, Gandhian values, or you can also term it as Christian values, where like you are willing to take the blame upon yourself, and then pass on this message that you are sorry, and you know please sort of forgive me, because I have erred, I have done some wrong, hmm, and I hope you'll be able to do that. So such a philosophy is so, I think, very, very relevant in contemporary society, where we are always, looking after our self or personal aggrandizement, where we only think about us, I. I, mm, and without giving any kind of consideration for the concerns of others. So I think this particular course on Ho'oponopono, advanced Ho'oponopono that Doctor deals with, I think it is such a wonderful and kind of philosophy that can instill that values of positivity within one. Because what happens is that this kind of philosophy will be able to keep any kind of toxic mentality or toxicity at bay, so that you know you begin to feel pure from within. You begin to feel pure from within, because you know that what you have done is you have purged or purified yourself. Purified yourself of what? Of all the negative thoughts and negative energies that was welling within your being, and then you want to just take it out. Hmm. And I think the other person who will be the recipient of that particular idea of forgiveness will also feel quite uh, I would say that they would feel quite happy about the fact that even though they may have committed wrong, somebody has actually asked forgiveness on their behalf. So I think this is a wonderful way in which some kind of positivity can be sort of ushered from within ourselves, so that you begin to feel a sense of purity from within. uh, like I think these kind of thought processes or these kind of philosophies are very, very important and relevant in the contemporary society in which we live in. So I think apart from that, like you know, I'm also very much interested in the Japanese concept of ikigai. So most of you might be conversant with that particular philosophy, where the notion is finding purpose to existence. And how do you find purpose to your existence? By maintaining a life which is very, very minimalistic and simplistic to the core. So it entails, giving up of material desires and material things. So if we can shun material desires and material things, so we will feel much more organically associated with the world of nature. And I think the world of nature can give us plenty of joy, and because nature heals, which perhaps culture cannot. So the mm, concept of ikigai that certain Japanese societies they follow and practice, which has resulted in lengthening their lives. So in this particular place, which is known as Okinawa in Japan, you come across many geriatric persons who are more than 100 years old. And why? It is because they follow this particular life philosophy, the philosophy of ikigai, which is about shunning desires, shunning material things, living simple life, okay, and eating, frugal diets, and then, giving a great deal of importance to meditation. And also, I think it is very much, interconnected with the idea that are sort of practiced by the Hawaiian tribe, where they seek forgiveness from the other for whatever wrongs they have committed, so that they also feel a sense of spiritual edification from within. So I think when we talk about spirituality, and then when we talk about notions of positivity, mental well-being and wellness, I think these ethical values are very, very important to ensure that I don't think just going to a doctor and having certain prescriptive or prescription drugs like, for instance, Prozac, PROZAC, which will make you feel a little bit, better for a particular moment. This does not ensure permanent cure to the kinds of problems that we experience in our day-to-day lives. So, like so many methods and methodologies are there. Doctor also offers a very, very interesting program. Again, I did not have much idea about that neuro linguistic programming. I think it's a very, very interesting concept where a spiritual kind of notion is allied or intersected, or I would say aligned with knowledge that is very, very scientific and positivistic to the core. So, like uh, this neuro-linguistic programming consists of the interconnection between mind, uh, language, and behavior. How the interconnection between these three, let's say, elements can result in certain kind of processes that could lead to a person having the capacity to map or mentally map the what do you call it, the mind of, or you can say the mental model of a being who is happy and who is living a contented life, and trying to replicate that particular model in an I would say that model in a very, very in sense of an imagery, in sense of a diagram, or in sense of an algorithmic formula, replicating it to another person who is perhaps a little bit unhappy and a little bit sad, so that just by looking at that particular model of a person who is living a happy life, so this person adopting that particular model also begins to manifest within him a certain sense of happiness or a certain sense of mental equanimity. So neuro linguistic programming is, I think, a very, very advanced kind of a scientific process related to culturing the mind, and culturing the mind in such a way that you begin to feel a sense of wellness and a sense of positivity from within. So I think there are various kind of modules that are there in order to achieve such a condition of equanimity by following this particular procedure. And well, you know, I myself want to be a member of HEMS Academy in order to understand how, like, we can achieve that sense of equanimity and a sense of wellness from neuro linguistic programming. Sounds so very interesting. Uh, yeah, the Japanese have another system which is known as Reiki, which again I think everybody is conversant with. Reiki is all about what? Reiki is all about warding off the negative energy and trying to inculcate or instill within the self positive energies which will be sort of spread or disseminated between two agents, the practitioner, and then you can say the practitioner is there and then the recipient is there, and it is a kind of symbiotic bond between the practitioner and the recipient that would lead to a kind of wellness from within, a sense of positive energy which will emerge from within. So, like, when we uh, discuss things related to positivity, there are, I think, different methods and methodologies, as I've already articulated. And there was this German Jew by the name of Viktor Frankl, who has written a wonderful book. Okay, the title of that book is The Meaning of Life. Okay, in which Viktor Frankl, he talked about the Holocaust excesses that was perpetrated upon the Jews by the German Nazis. And if you read that book, we eventually come to this particular position where Viktor Frankl is in a position finally to forgive the German Jews, sorry, forgive the German Nazis for the sins, for the excesses, the crimes, okay, that they committed against a particular race. And he says that we have to, after a point of time, we have to heal, and you have to start the process of healing. And the process of healing can only begin when we try to forgive. Okay, it's not forget. Forgiving is more important than the idea of forgetting. And he articulated a particular philosophical premise, which we termed as logotherapy. And logotherapy is what? Logotherapy is about finding the purpose or the meaning of existence, the meaning of life. Okay. And why life is such a wonderful thing. And why, despite all atrocities, all crimes, and all sufferings, there is a purpose for which, like, we have come into this world, and we need to find a sense of that. Need to find the meaning of life and the meaning of existence. That can only be possible by forgetting, okay, certain things that cannot be forgotten, that cannot be forgotten. So I think if like we follow that particular philosophy that was propounded by Viktor Frankl, again, it will lead us to a mental state of equanimity in which I think we will be able to reconcile with the sorrows and with the anxieties and stress that life always has to offer. Okay. And I am particularly fascinated by a particular philosophical premise which was articulated by a French philosopher whose name was Emmanuel Levinas. Now, Emmanuel Levinas is very, very difficult to read. His philosophical notions are again quite profound. But one particular philosophy which is simple and which we can all relate to is his philosophy of the care for the other. So I find this particular idea of Levinas very, very fascinating, and I've also tried to practice it in my life, with a little degree of success, I would say, if not much. So philosoph- the philosophical premise of the Levinasian concept of the care for the other, it entails this particular idea. It is that, see, like it is by giving, okay, sharing something with other, that we derive a sense of joy, a sense of satisfaction from within. Okay, like if we come across, uh, let's say, a homeless person, a beggar in the street, okay, a person who is steeped in poverty, and suppose we hand him, uh, a little bit of money. It can be 10 rupees, or it can be even lesser than that. Okay. But if we give him, let's say, 5 rupees or 10 rupees, what happens is that we begin to experience a feeling of intense contentment, a feeling of intense joy from within. Hmm. Even though, like, that act of giving implies that we have tried to address the particular, economic distress of that particular person, who, by taking away that 5 rupees or 10 rupees from me, will perhaps be having something to eat. Okay. But what happens is that the act of giving gives us more satisfaction than that act of receiving. Okay. In the sense that, because like, in the sense that, see, we may have the capacity to actually give him much, much more, hmm, or we may have that particular capacity to give him around 100 rupees, but we still give him 10 rupees. But that, even, giving away 10 rupees to that particular person who is distressed and who perhaps, doesn't have anything to eat, will result in some kind of ameliorating or addressing or redressing the hunger pangs that he experiences at that particular moment. But the joy of giving that money brings us a great sense of contentment from within. So this can also be seen, like, when one cares for a person who is sick, a person who is suffering, or a person who is sick in a hospital. So even though we suffer and we may have to spend, countless nights just waking and taking care of that person, but there is a great sense of satisfaction from within. And this satisfaction is only possible because of our association or interaction with the other. It is the other that is responsible for giving us immense amount of contentment, a feeling of positivity, a feeling that we are, good human beings because we are taking care of somebody else. So the satisfaction which that person receives is, of course, not less. but the satisfaction which we get by helping that person is perhaps much, much more than the satisfaction which we get. So it is actually like we need to thank the other, okay, because the other has been responsible for giving us such a sense of joy through our sacrifice, through our act of care for the other. So I think this is a wonderful way in which, like, we can feel a sense of happiness, a sense of purity, satisfaction from within when we contribute to the other. Because then what happens is that we contribute to the society, we contribute to the community, we contribute to the nation as well, and that is something that can, of course, give us an immense amount of joy. And I think in this particular positivity week that we are observing, HAMS Academy is observing, uh, I have found this particular method of, caring for the other, giving to the other, a way through which I have also been, to a small extent, able to ward off my depression, okay, my feelings of anxiety, or my feelings of low self-esteem. When I give something to the other, I'm filled with joy, and I feel that the other person whom I have gifted, he has actually gifted me twice, okay, by accepting the thing that I have given it to him. So with those words, I'd like to thank Doctor for giving me this wonderful opportunity uh, to interact with you. And I would like to wish all of you a very, very happy new year, and happiness, joy, and peace throughout the year. Thank you.